Hey, you guys, another happy Wednesday evening here. We are here with another Everybody Can't Go Convo. And today I have an amazing, very special celebrity guest for you guys tonight. If you don't know, and I know some of you guys that are watching, you have posted her videos before and said, "Who is this lady?" And I made sure to chime in those comments like, that is one of my mentors, one of the ladies in my heart of hearts. So today we brought for you guys Miss Ashling Cole with the $1 Million Voice. And she's going
Woo-hoo.
to spend some time with us today having a Everybody Can't Go convo. So, how are you, Ashling? Thank you for coming. Go ahead and tell us what's been going on for you and tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, let me just say I'm so proud of you for having this podcast, for launching it. We've been talking about everybody can't go for a long time. And so, as giving you the mama auntie energy, big sis energy, I'm super proud of you and excited to be a part of it in a very unconventional way. I will just say that this was, obviously God ordained for me to be on here today. And sometimes things have to be taken out of the way in order for things to be put in place that you might not have considered or thought about. And it's like sometimes bigger can be uncomfortable, right? And so in order to get there, sometimes, like I said, things have to. So that's what happened today. That's how I ended up here. Somebody had to be taken out of the way. And now here I am. And so unapologetically, I'm excited to be here today. So I am Ashling Cole. I am a singer, songwriter, worship leader. I was a contestant, a finalist actually on Sunday Best, which is how so many people have come to know me in the last 3, 4, geez, we're already in 2024, in the last 4 years. But before Sunday Best, a lot of people don't know that I had a wonderful career touring with amazing artists like Larry Graham and Graham Central Station, Sheila E., Prince. I still continue to tour with Larry Graham and Dave Koz and Sheila E. I just was with her this past weekend. So um, I stay super busy. I not only do that as far as from a singing standpoint, but like I said, a songwriter. I'm also a vocal coach, and I work in various communities as a speaker and a consultant. And I feel like God doesn't give you just one gift, right? And so why only utilize one gift? So, but today I'm excited to talk about this topic of everybody can't go because it's played a big role in my success, my failures, or my challenges, all of that stuff. So I'm excited to see where this conversation goes today.
Awesome, awesome. So, with you guys hearing Ashling's background, a lot of times we like to think that once you achieve a certain level of success, or once you get to a certain level in your growth journey, in your career, in your family, in your relationships, you think that, or sometimes we have a tendency to think like, oh, everything's all good. And sometimes we say that saying so often that it literally just rolls off the tongue. Like, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Everything's good. And it's like, is it really? And
Right.
I'd like to talk about a little bit just some of the more recent things that you've had to do in regards to letting go of people or environments for a reason or a season. Because a lot of times, we may think once you get to that mountaintop, the truth of the matter
Come
is
on.
we're always growing and
That's
we're
right.
always moving toward the version of our best self. Like that mountaintop that we're climbing to, we don't necessarily we're not there yet. And as long as you're growing, as long as you're learning, this is going to constantly be a thing that will come up for you. So, would you share with us something recent for you that has happened in that regard? And then, how did you handle it? Was it a challenge? Was it familiar?
Absolutely. I mean, you said a mouthful right there. So my brain just immediately started going down the strategizing rabbit hole of, like if I don't know myself well enough to know my personality, my strategy, like tools, how I handle problems, how I show up for people, what pace works the best, for me. Am I a fast-paced person? Am I a slow-paced person? Am I an analytical person? Do I follow rules? Do I not follow rules? Like, these are questions that we can ask ourselves to find out how we operate, right? And then you can split that from personal to business, right? What kind of a friend am I? What kind of a wife am I? What kind of a daughter or mother or sister or brother, or, including the men as well in this. And I think that when we take the time out to really discover who we are, then we can begin to identify challenges and issues that are really going to affect us. Because I think sometimes we miss the fact that we are the common denominator, right? And so if we are on the road to success and we come across people, places, and things, we need nouns to get, where we're going, right? And so if we identify those as, is this a liability or is this an asset? Okay, great. Then we can identify that. But sometimes we're the liability, and sometimes assets come into our life and we blame them. We misdiagnose or mislabel them as liabilities when the problem is really ourselves. And so in this season, in the last couple of years, I have really been on this this self-help, self-diagnosing. I mean, like literally diving down into, like, how many books can I read? How many podcasts can I listen to? How many meetings can I sit in? How many coaches can I have? How much can I possibly absorb to make sure that when an asset comes into my life, I'm not scaring it away because I'm the liability. And in reverse, that I recognize when something really is a liability, and it becomes easier then to say, that's not really for me. So case in point, one of my challenges is, and it's a beautiful thing if I look at it on one side. So I grew up blue collar. So my father was a longshoreman, and my mother was like, she was artsy. She was super artsy, which is kind of where I get it, right? She was always making jewelry and painting or knitting something, or, just like creative with her hands. But my father was hardworking. He got up early. He got home at the same time every day. He was out there like blue collar labor. And so that's where I get my work ethic from. However, they never really taught me about money and finances and wealth. And so as I began to get into a different level of financial status, if you will, I didn't know how to manage it, but also it when the lack or seasons, like, it's ebb and flow when you're an entrepreneur. And stay with me, because I know I may sound like I'm rambling, but I'm going somewhere. So when you're an entrepreneur and there's an ebb and flow, right? You have highs and you have lows, and you have to know how to store in your season of abundance. You have to learn how to store for your season of what we'll call lack, right? Which I didn't learn. And so it's an excuse, but it wasn't a habit. I had not developed a habit of storing. And so abundance would come and I would just live it up. I'm like, oh, we eating good. We getting them shoes. Look at that purse I've been looking at. We taking that trip. And then the lack season would come and I'd be like, what we gonna do now? And so because I had that blue collar mentality, I would go find a job. I would go apply at like Costco, or apply at like a job that I knew I could walk in and just get hired. Instead of, and I just thought I was, oh, well, look at me. I'm not afraid to go to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that was liability behavior, because it was taking away from where it is, A, that I wanted to go, B, where God wanted me to go, and C, it was just like, I'm never going to get to a level of financial independence working for someone else. I'm just going to say that. And so sometimes the behavior is what can't go, right? We talk about everybody can't go, but everything can't go also. There's behaviors that you have to let go of in order to get to that next level. So now coming into 2024, I'm like, I'm not having another abundance lack season or year like I did last year. We're gonna go for stable, steady consistency. So that is my focus this year. And there are definitely people that I have come across that want to be around you when you're in the abundance season, right? Let's go kick it because you on the overflow. But then when you're in the lack season, they're nowhere to be found. So taking inventory on those people that are going to be with you through thick and thin, but also taking inventory on your own behavior and know that everything can't go. And sometimes those bad behaviors have to be let go of.
That's all facts. Now, really, with all of the like you talking about dropping gems, dropping nuggets, anything valuable, whatever you want to call it. She been dropping C notes on y'all. So, you literally just walked us through two chapters in the book: assets versus liabilities, and also that grinding season, that winning season versus that season of sowing and that season of planting.
That's right.
And there was just so much in what you just took us through right there. And also we hadn't even talked about it yet, but you gave everybody a preview into book 2 of the Everybody Can't Go series. Because, like you said, it's not just that everybody can't go, everything can't go with you either. And so,
That's right.
insider exclusive, y'all, so just looking at the assets liabilities portion, I'm going to keep us there for a sec. As that we have a whole chapter on that in the book, in not just assessing others, but that self assessment, because there are roles that we play in whether or not the people that surround us or the habits that we keep, is it helping us or hindering us in terms of reaching our goals or ultimately
That's right.
achieving our vision. When we're talking about achieving that ultimate vision, looking at whether or not your goals are in alignment to achieve that vision. I myself had a problem with, like you said, I'm all about the hustle, I'm all about the grind. Have I
Right.
always been successful? Sure. I've had the look of being successful
Mm,
because I would be like, oh, well, okay, spend it all. It's just money. Just go make some more. But what I didn't realize was being a being the proper steward over what it is that you have, no matter how much or how little,
come on.
was the principle, the value that needed to grow within me. Um, Even, and I think that when you're rooted in being a good steward over what you have, no matter how much or how little, it helps you to kind of it helps you to examine that asset and liability category. Because it, when you're just riding the ebb and flow and just going with it instead of preparing for
That's
that
right.
dip, the way
That's
that
right.
you just talked about, it makes us more susceptible to not paying attention to who we're around. And
Mm,
it also makes us not pay attention to, we set another one of those cliches: misery loves company. So you don't really notice sometimes when you're at that high. You notice when certain people, they automatically, they leave, they're gone because you've been living it up, you've been balling out. But sometimes
right.
what we don't notice is when we get in that dip, when we're in that valley, it's not just people who are coming to help you climb the other side of the mountain to get back up that will gravitate towards you while you're at that low point. Misery loves company. So there will also be people who, while you're in that low point, that will, come into your life at that time, that they may not necessarily mean you any good. They may not necessarily be there to help you out of it and so that you guys can grow together. They're there because you at the valley low, and
That's right.
you willingly accept liabilities in, even though those people, they have a specific reason in your life at the time, and there
Mm,
is a specific season that they're supposed to be with you, and trying to pull those people along as you're coming out of that when that was never their purpose in your life in the first place. That is where we can start to experience just a world of heartache, because we're not being careful and paying attention to, at the time, the person who could have been an asset to you during
mm,
a specific season, and for that reason they can quickly or easily become a liability when you aren't stewarding your finances
that's
properly,
it.
because you're just looking at those emotional connections, not looking at what are you doing, what does it cost for them to be there, not just in here and in here, what does it cost for them to be there as well.
Mm,
And sometimes we only look at it on the opposite hand, we're only looking at what does it cost for someone to be there. And that was
yeah.
actually a valuable lesson that one of my friends, he tore me up in the car about that. That looking at the cost of someone being in your life. I was so afraid of becoming a liability to others. I mean, just as we were coaching earlier today, I
Hmm.
had to get on myself that, I fear becoming that, becoming a taker so badly because of the way that I was taken from in the past, that it's caused me to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm afraid to ask for help, or I
Mm,
don't want to ask for help because I don't want to be burdensome. And I'm like, oh, I can figure this out on my own. And so that's one thing that I definitely encourage all of you guys. Examine, are you being a liability to yourself in that aspect, that you're trying so bad or so hard to not be the very person that's taking advantage of you. You're trying to not become that, and you go to the other side so bad that now you're a liability to yourself.
that's
And
good.
I will say that, just me going ahead being like, oh, this is uncomfortable, I don't want to do it, must be done. And I got help straight away. Straight away. Someone was willing to step out and help me. And we have to be receptive and be open to accepting that help when it does come to you, and accepting
Hmm.
help from the right people, not just the people who are coming along just to be, involved with you, but those people who are what I call in the book the right people, who step up to help you and to lend a hand, and people who the relationship is mutually beneficial, not just like, people who are coming along that it's like, I'm gonna keep you in my back pocket, you'll be good for something later. And when you are in need, you're kind of just like, hey, I need some help, and that just echoes into
Right.
into this. But anytime anyone else needs help, you're like, oh, I'm here, I got you, what do you need?
Right.
I know it's last minute, I got some things that I can shift around, I got you. And so yeah, making sure that not only are you assessing those assets and liabilities in other people, but doing that self-assessment to make sure that, one, you aren't being a liability to yourself, and two, making sure that the thing that you fear becoming, that you don't let that spirit take over and
Mm.
basically pull you in the opposite direction.
Mm, that's so good. So I have to get my look. I have a pen and paper too, y'all. Don't think that we're just expecting you to have pen and paper. I always keep pen and paper because you just never know. God speaks through people, and so I'm like, look, I'm trying to take notes too. Look, setting clean expectations of the people around you, right? They are not you. They are not you. Just because we show up for those people does not mean they're going to show up for us in the same way. That's why you have to assess. You have to assess who they are. You have to assess who you are. You have to assess, is this something that I can do myself? Am I operating in a victim mentality right now? Am I testing the friendship to see, or the partnership to see, are they going to if I cry wolf, are they going to show up for me? Assess, 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 right? Take inventory, right? Constantly be taking inventory. Your behavior, their strengths, your strengths, limitations, all of that stuff. That was one great point. My mentor, and I know somebody that you have been under as well, the amazing Dr. Eric Thomas. He talks about you are the sum total of the five people that are closest to you, right? You're the sum total of the five people that are closest to you. So, first of all, if you have 30 people around you and you consider those 30 people on the same level as your friendship, I would encourage you to scale back. I would encourage you to scale back because there's a couple things that might be going on. One, you might be in like a false narrative where you are afraid you're going to get found out, right? And so you don't let people close to you. So you have 30 people, let's say 10. It doesn't even have to be 30. Let's say 10. You have 10 people that you keep at arm's length, but you consider them your circle, but you have not let anybody in. That's, you know, there's no real true accountability when you keep people at arm's length. And so there's two sides of that coin. Maybe you don't want accountability and that's why you're keeping people, at arm's length. But also the people that you do start letting in, begin to take inventory of your friends. Okay, which five people do I want to be the sum total of? And then let them in, right? And you don't have to say, hey, by the way, I've been keeping you at arm's length for the last 10 years, but I'm going to let you in now and you're going to be in my inner circle. You ain't got to say all of that. They will feel it because your behavior will change, right? You'll begin to share things with them and maybe start with something that you're not super sensitive about. Maybe you share something that, is not a trigger conversation for you, and you begin to let them in, and you can kind of then decide, is this somebody that I can trust with my thoughts, feelings, emotions, goals, fears, disappointments, all those things. And if not, then move on to the next person. But remember that you are the sum total of the 5 people closest to you. So choose wisely, right? And trust your circle. Once you establish that circle with those, let's say 5 people, like you were saying, just like, how I don't want to ask for help because I don't want to be a burden. Well, if you have vetted the 5 people that are closest to you, trust them to tell you, I can't do that for you, right? Trust them. Then you set yourself up for success, because now you've put yourself in a position where you can lean and depend on in all angles, right? You've got 5 pillars around you that are going to hold you up in the time of need. And you also need to turn around and make sure that you're the pillar for them, right? If it's just a one-sided friendship, then we're missing out on some lessons that we can learn and that we can also teach, right? And so when you have put yourself in a position of like, okay, I know everybody can't go, I know everything can't go, and so these are the 5 that can go. I'm going to trust them to be able to tell me when I'm being outlandish. If I'm asking for something that they cannot give me, I know that we're not in a codependent relationship because it's been tried and true. We're not. They're standalone, I stand alone, but we're in this thing together, if that makes sense, right? And so when you do ask for help, you ask it from a sincere place, but it's really not about feelings. It's really like, this is what I need to get done. I know your strengths and I know that you can help me in this area. Are you available to do this for me? And then there'll be times like today when you say the need, but you don't even ask. You're not even asking for what it is that you need. And then somebody that knows you and loves you and cares about you says, I'm available, I can do it. And then a whole nother door opens and it's like, oh, I didn't even really know that I was asking. But because you have those solid people around you, then the needs start getting met.
Mm-hmm. And that's really good with what you just said, that being surrounded by people that are solid and just rise to the occasion. One of the things that previously I hadn't noticed about myself was I would, how we'll always say, I need a friend like me. And it's like,
Mm,
well, just why don't you have friends like you? And I'm like, well, I do, but, and I could name specifically who Jessica's Jessica. And one of the commonalities that I noticed was the people that Jessica are the same people that they one will be like, nah, Jess, you tripping. And I'm like, oh man,
mm,
what's that? Come on, we need to have a conversation. And it's like somebody took you aside and told you need, and I'm like, yeah. And that's where the submission comes in. Let me
right.
shut my mouth and I'm gonna go ahead and go.
Come on.
And the level of friendship that I have with people who I've given permission or who have taken those reins, I noticed that there are a lot of commonalities, even though we're from separate friend circles, but there are
Right.
very specific friends that I do have that there's a list of commonalities, trust, loyalty, being able to just tell the truth about things, willing
Mm,
to have those uncomfortable conversations, willing to talk about and work through conflict, um,
absolutely.
being able to there's a certain way that we communicate with one another even when we are having challenges. It's like, hey, we need to sit and talk about this. If I'm not ready now or you're not ready now, let's, we'll touch base in a bit so that we can, the emotions can come down. But like, yo, we got to work this out because this thing, we ain't going nowhere. We like tight. And the biggest commonality that I noticed, and one of the things that I talk about in the book, the biggest of all of the things that it was literally, I heard God was the one that pointed it out to me, was just the word growth. And
Mm,
so I really had to take some time and look at and examine my own feelings and the people surrounding me and the company that I chose to keep or chose to hold on to, or whether or not
right.
the rope was being yanked right out of my hand. And I'm still like just letting it burn my palm up instead of just let go. It's already hurting, just
That's
let
right.
go. And
That's right.
so even in that, like being on a growth journey became even more so important to me, because I saw that that was such an important component of those five people. And then, the circle of 10 or 15 around that. And then the outer circle, I never like in yesteryear, 5+ years ago, I never thought to myself that, okay, my top five can be rock solid. And these will be people who will be my five pillars. I'm a pillar for them as well. But then that outer circle, and then that outer circle also be full of solid people that it's not just the closest five that I roll with for the most part, like on a day-to-day basis,
Mm,
but keeping in community with people that are so solid that it's like,
that's right.
oh, I am surrounded by people who are like me, that when there's a need, everybody not running at once, but I'm in a circle and in a community that is full of people who are growth minded, who are solid. Everybody, like, and it might not just be me that needs help with something.
Mm,
Anytime somebody in the community throws up something that is like, oh, having such and such problem, it's not always the coaches that have a solution or that lend a helping hand. They're literally our peers, people to our left and our right that are like, oh, I got you. And it's never just one person. It's always two or three people that rise to the occasion. And that, I would say, for me, it definitely took a couple of years to do the pruning and the weeding of the different relationships, and molding the way that I perceive and receive information coming from other people, not internalizing other people's behavior. I can only
mm,
control myself and what I do. And
that's right.
at the time, people are going to do what's best for them. And so it did take a bit of time. I reminded you guys in the first couple of episodes, sometimes you'll once you get that foundation together, you'll have a quantum leap. But during that time where you're getting that foundation solid, to make sure that your foundation isn't being built on sand, that it does take time, and you're implementing things as you learn them. So it's
That's
not
right.
just the information that you guys are getting while you're here listening, learning, while you're getting access to some of the most amazing coaches on the face of this earth, like not just in my state, not just in my city, not just in this country, like literally on the face of this earth. You guys are
Mm,
hearing from some of the best coaches who have helped walk me from, I tell y'all all the time, account being in the negative walks me up to working my way to six figures. And it's not just getting the information. There have been plenty of people that I've been side by side with, exposed to the same information, but the application of the information is what is key.
that's right.
And also, the application is key because you'll need to apply it in different ways, individual to individual. So that
Mm,
same that
yeah.
same bit of information, it can be applied three or four different ways depending on the individual. similar to how we take certain scriptures and things, you applying that in your life, it can go, it looks different for each person, or can look different for each person, in some aspects. So yeah, with that, I forgot what my second point was in everything that you just said, because you had so many nuggets in there. So I'll let you just go ahead and keep rocking.
Oh, I mean, it reminded me of like a recent situation. So those of you that know who I am, you follow me on social media, whatever, you know that I go to a lot of churches. You will see me at a lot of churches and a lot of events. And so during the pandemic, of course, I wasn't really in church. I was in relationship with God, but not in church, right? And so I didn't have that fellowship aspect. I had accountability through an amazing community, which is how Jessica and I met. Um, and but I remember at the beginning of last year, I just felt so strongly this pull to get back involved in church, like at a church, to have a church home. And you can, you can move if you don't go to church, like don't let that stop. Like there's a message in here for everybody, right? And so it was the fellowship part that scared me about church, right? So when you are going to like when I go to visit a church, they don't know me. Like they know who they think I am, right? They've seen me, whatever, and they have an idea. And then sometimes I walk in and they just make an assessment or an assumption of me, when I walk in. But if I was there every single week, they would slowly really start to get to know who I really, really am, not just who I was for that day or that hour or that week if I'm doing a residency. But I felt the pull to really have fellowship with people that week after week, you can only fake it so long. You know what I'm saying? Like you can only put on that front for so long. And when I walk into church and they know now if I'm being sincere or if I'm struggling or if I'm having a hard time or if I need a hug or if I just need a good morning or if I need to be left alone, like we have spent an entire year. Now, this is a church that I was a member at for like 12 years, but I took a sort of a hiatus in the middle during COVID. And I just love the fact that I don't have to pretend to be anything other than who I really am. And I think that that can translate into the people that we surround ourselves with, right? Again, going back to not letting people in, right? And also being associated with people that don't let us in. There's only so much accountability that we can have, right?
Hmm.
And so I encourage, I cannot express this enough, to get in a position where you're close to some people, like some really, really good people that you can show up just as yourself, good days, bad days, indifferent days, highs, lows, mediums, whatever, that you can just show up and be loved on and be supported, like at a high level by people that are also operating at a high level. So finding a community that you can be a part of, finding Jessica and I was talking about the coaches community, right? Finding something, and if you don't have access to it, start it, begin it, demand that for yourself, right? Like Eric Thomas says, you owe you the fact that you've got this dream or this goal, you owe that dream or that goal to do everything by any means necessary to have it come to fruition. There's no more excuses. We cannot possibly sit around and say, well, if I had a better opportunity, or if I had a better upbringing, or if my finances were better, or, right? It's like you owe it to yourself. Like God wouldn't give you a dream or a goal or a calling or a pull. Like when you feel pulled to something or you feel pushed to something, there's a reason for that, right? There might be somebody's life that you will impact just because you took a step in that direction. And if you don't take the step in that direction, just imagine that there's somebody in need, that your unique skill set, when I say your unique skill set, I'm talking about your life experiences. Your life experiences are a skill set. You might have gone to college and you might have degrees on the wall and you might have all your placards and your all your certifications, or you might be like me who's a high school dropout. Your education doesn't have to be weighed necessarily by the certifications that are on the wall, by the degrees that are on the wall. Your life experiences are your skill set. That is your education. Like Jay-Z said, the school of hard knocks, right? That's kind of how it goes. So utilize those things that you think, oh well, I went through this situation. Let's say a divorce. Like I'm divorced, right? Okay, so I went through this divorce and it's a burden. And I'm ashamed that I went through a divorce and I don't want to tell anybody about it. And I don't want to talk about it. And I'm just going to pretend that it didn't happen. In fact, it's so long ago, I'm just not even going to act like they even exist. But instead of looking at it as a burden, if you flip that around and you look at it as a blessing, even though that thing may have happened to you, there are people that are going through that same situation. If you don't share your testimony of what you did, how it felt, what it looked like, what you did, the strategies that you learned, the things that you learned not to do, the wisdom that you gained for going through that, then you can help somebody else so that they don't have to go through the same like bump on the head that you had to go through. And so if we began to create community in that way of looking at life experiences as blessings and not burdens, this world will be such a better place because we would like begin to let go of shame, which can be debilitating for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Shame can be debilitating. It can trigger anxiety. It can trigger depression. It can trigger suicidal thoughts. Shame can leave you alone and feeling abandoned and like in isolation and seclusion, which problems get solved in numbers, right? We solve problems better in numbers. This is my opinion, right? Also because I'm a people person, right? Other people will be like, I don't need nobody to solve this problem. I'm just going to solve it. But I believe that we're stronger together, right? We're better together. And so just remembering that the things that you've been through, right? Like we're talking about everybody can't go, right? But don't leave out the things that can go, right? Don't cut off the things that are really important and vital because you just never know. I heard Kalante Gavin this morning. He was doing he's a gospel artist. I absolutely love him. And he was doing like a test run. He's going to go live tonight for some event. So he was doing a test run. And he was saying, um, in the next 3 years, everything that you've been working towards is going to come to fruition. And at the same time, he said, but don't throw away the last 3 years that you've been through some stuff to get to this point, right? Sometimes we could be hyper focused on forward, but we forget that sometimes we got to look back and grab those nuggets because from 2020 until now, we all been through some stuff, okay? We done been through some stuff. We done lost some people. We done been to the valley and been to the mountaintop and back to the valley again. And so there's so many lessons and nuggets that we can take from those experiences. Don't sweep them under the rug, right? Because one day you're gonna trip over it. You keep sweeping things under the rug. One time you're gonna trip over that rug and bump your head, and then you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
really be out of commission. So that's so important. Look back. Don't stay back, right? Don't stay back, but look back to grab those nuggets, put them in your purse, and bring them with you on the journey looking forward.
That is really good. And that gives me a handful of things to think about as well. One of the things, rewinding us back a little bit, to about the middle of what you were just talking about. I wanted to talk about isolation a bit.
Mm,
As that's one of the things that I make sure to remind readers not to pretty much don't waste that time in isolation. And so you like me being a people person, like if y'all couldn't tell, I'm a people person, y'all. Being a people person, I had some lessons to learn during my time in isolation. And before when you were talking about taking that hiatus away from the fellowship that you had in church and everything during COVID, um, that time that you spent in isolation, being a people person, what was that like for you? Like, what things did you do? What did you spend your time doing? How were the challenges and the solutions for you there? What did you do during that time of isolation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like you, I'm a people person as well, and I tend to get energy from connection with people, right? That's what gives me energy. I do need my time alone, right, to sort of rejuvenate and rest and recover. But for the most part, I get energy from other people, right? So during the time of isolation, I utilize this is a gateway, this apparatus, this phone that I'm on right now, this apparatus is a gateway to connection, right? And so many podcasts, ministries, social media, whatever things, people going viral, all stemmed from the pandemic, because it was like we couldn't actually connect with folks, directly. And so we found ways to connect through technology. And so, like I'm having a podcast, right? It might seem like you're doing it by yourself and you're doing it virtually and you're in the room by yourself, but you're connecting with so many people. And this, like in a situation like this where you have a guest on your podcast, it's amazing. I think that it's really important to know the difference between isolation for recovery purposes, like recovery, rest, rejuvenation, R&R, all that. Like isolation is important. But if you're isolating out of fear and anxiety and depression and doubt and whatever, fear of disappointment, all those things, grief, then that can actually become something that sits on you, right? It can actually be like something that is all consuming. And so when you understand, first of all, your personality, are you an extrovert or an introvert? Or somebody like myself who's an ambivert, which means like I'm sort of a mix between the two. It's important to recognize that isolation can be a good thing, but don't allow that to be detrimental to your well-being. But utilize technology. If you want to connect with people, make a video and post it on YouTube and then sit there and read the comments. There's nothing wrong with that. If you need connection, there's ways to do that. And now we're coming out of people still getting sick, but we're certainly not in COVID like we were in 2020 to 2022. Go to a coffee shop, take your laptop. If you're somebody that works from home and you have your laptop, take it to the coffee shop. That's what I did today. I'm like, this is actually a building. This is a room in the building that I live in. It's like a conference room and nobody uses it like ever. And so I was like, you know what, today, Jeff, I'm gonna come here and you're gonna get this good art and I'm gonna come sit with this nice chair and get out of my apartment for a little bit, for an hour, to change the environment, to change the atmosphere, right? Sometimes we just need to get out of the environment that we're in. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut, and sometimes a physical change, physically getting up. And I know I've said this to you before, Jess. This is one of my things. If you're laying down, sit up. If you're sitting, stand. If you're standing, walk. If you're walking, run, and then work that thing in reverse. If you're running, walk, slow down. If you're walking, stop, stand. If you're standing, sit. If you're sitting, sometimes lay down, right? Any one of those, like 2% changes or alterations in your behavior can literally change your chemistry. You can physically change your mood by moving your body in a different way than you're currently moving it, right? And so that oxygenates your body, it gets your blood circulating. Your brain needs oxygen. When we don't move our body and we're not physically, getting outside and getting fresh air, the brain tends to like get a little foggy because it's not getting enough oxygen, right? And so the other thing about that, I don't even know how we got on this, how I'm going down this, but the physical aspects of it as well. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. If you're feeling like I can't deal today, I don't want to be around people, I don't want to deal with nothing, take a deep breath. You might not actually have enough oxygen in your body. Like increase your oxygen take. Fun fact, most of us don't take deep breaths.
We
We,
don't.
like every breath that we take is not a deep breath. It's just a little surface breath, and that's how we maintain, right? And we don't even, most of us really think about our breath. We just go, and the breath just happens to go by. It's like amazing. It's a miracle that the air just comes in and goes out. We don't even have to think about it. But then there's times when we have to take a pause and just take a deep breath. And I have found like that is the quickest way for me. And I found that even people that I talk to about that are like, oh man, I just didn't even think to take a deep breath. Yeah, I'm telling you, take a deep breath and then just like stand up, walk around the table, go outside. I remember one of my clients, she was like, when you talk about working hard, she would work so hard, like be hours and hours and hours at her computer, like very successful, like making it happen. And then I just said one time, I said, okay, I need you to just put everything down when you're in this, about like at least once an hour, if not every 2 hours, and just walk outside, put everything down, your phone, everything, right? And just take a walk around the block, right? If you get in that like narrow, like you're super hyper focused on something and you're not having forward motion, drop everything and just go walk around the block. And then come back and you'll get a whole different perspective on what it is that you're working on.
Yes, that is very true. That is one of those things that you have it in my subconscious now with the take a deep breath. As you were speaking, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it now. I'm literally only breathing like to about here. But when it's
Yeah,
like take a deep breath, I automatically sit up. My
right.
posture improves so that I can get that air all the way down into my
That's right.
diaphragm. When you taking that deep breath, you breathing into your stomach, really, like
That's right.
you breathing all the way down. And so I can say that over the years, that's definitely something that now it's in my subconscious. When I was having a hard time, or if I'm like, you like, yeah, Jess, there's something wrong this morning. I'm like, it is. Okay, we're gonna take a deep breath. And I will automatically go from, balled up in
Right.
my chair to let me sit up and
That's right.
if we have to take two or take three and getting up, getting that movement around and everything, sometimes that movement, that physical movement, changing that environment, I sit at my computer, barely can think, and I'm like, I know the answer to this, why can't I figure it out? Oh, there's my deep breath. Well, that's my
Yep.
cue to stand up, do my full body stretch all the way in the air,
Yes.
stretch my legs, stretch my back, stretch everything. And now I'm about to walk away. Whether it's take a walk around the house, walk out to the
Yep.
mailbox, walk through the neighborhood, I'm going to take a walk. You know what? I'm not just going to take a quick walk. I'm going to go ahead and do a full 30-minute walk. And it's like
Nice.
miraculously, all of a sudden, I'll get back
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, let me make my snack, go back upstairs to my desk. And it's like, oh, the answer right there. And I'm
That's
like,
right.
now at this point, I'm like, the answer was in the breath and the walk. That's where
Mm-hmm.
the answer was, because it literally it will be like on the edge of my brain, on the tip of my tongue, but I just can't quite get it out. And just taking that breather and that movement, it brings me back and centers me. And
Absolutely.
some of those things, I and this is why I bounce back and forth between talking about these different habits and these different things that we learn and start begin to apply over time, because while that is something that I initially began to apply it in my professional life. I do work from home, so applying that in my professional life, that is also something that I began to apply when I'm in a space of conflict. So personally,
Mm,
when I'm dealing with someone else, if we're coming up against a challenge, sometimes when you are in conflict or having a challenge, or there's something going on, or an issue going on in the dynamic, in a friendship, a romantic relationship, in a family, we all have our family drama, or like a family spat or whatever. Sometimes just taking that, like, and you feel yourself tensing up, because people that we care about deeply, whether it's friends, a significant other, your BFF, family members, anybody, they're able to get up under our skin per se, the way that certain other people cannot. And
Mm,
so I have found that that same moment of pause, no matter what frustration it is that I'm feeling or what negative feeling that I'm feeling, I, instead of automatically just letting the emotions bubble out and take that second breath to untense, let my
that's
shoulders
right.
down and get that deep breath in, and to take the breath so that I have time to think, so that I can think about what am I about to say and what do I need to express, so that I'm able to communicate with the other person to be understood, not to be heard yelling. And
That's right.
so that's one of those dual ways that I use one of those tools. You would think, well, oh, it's just taking a deep breath. And a lot of times we're like, oh, that's so lame. I don't want to take a deep breath. And it's like some of this stuff, you guys, even if it's, let it sound dumb, let it sound lame, let it sound whack, or whatever you want to call it. Call cap if that's what you want to call on it. But try it first. And
That's right.
just keep doing it, even though you like, oh, this is stupid. That's fine. Keep doing it. That 10th time,
Mhm.
that 15th time that you start to build that habit within yourself of doing this, all of a
That's right.
sudden, and really not all of a sudden, because you're constantly building that psychological muscle to make yourself do this, which that's the point that I've built myself to now. I did have to previously consciously, and I would tell Ashling in the morning, like, you know what, I was so upset about, and I channeled my inner Ashling. Take a deep breath. And I was able to move from channeling my inner Ashling and literally thinking of her voice saying, let's stop and we're going to take a deep breath, to I practiced that so often, even when I felt like, you know what, no, this is dumb. It's not going to help me calm down because I'm so in my emotions and they're raw right now.
That's right.
I practiced it so many times that now it has become my subconscious thought. So I don't have to channel my inner Ashling anymore. She's been able to release me into the wild and release me out into the wild with those teachings, that now it's my own subconscious thought that
Mm,
I don't even have to tell myself anymore. When I feel those things bubbling up, that first breath, sometimes that's my reminder when I'm just like, and it's like, well,
right.
that first attitudinal one, that's my automatic reminder to consciously take that breath and then communicate in a way that is more advantageous, so that I'm not the liability.
Right.
Communicating in a way that is advantageous, not just for myself to be heard and understood, but also to be advantageous to the other person on the receiving end, so that
Right.
I'm able to help them help me, so that we're helping each other and to work through that conflict. We talked about those
Right.
ebbs and flows earlier, those ups and downs. Those ups and downs will happen no matter what the relationship dynamic. But the way that we conduct ourselves and what we bring to the other person, sometimes that's all that's needed in a change. We talk about being the bigger person. While I'm not telling you guys 100% you're always going to be the bigger person, I'm not saying that every time you're the bigger person that the other party is going to follow suit. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not in any way advocating for you being the bigger person to equate to being emotionally, mentally abused, or to allowing someone to overstep your boundaries. What
That's
I
right.
am saying is that as we go through these ebbs and flows in these relationships, we have the privilege to take the opportunity to steer the conflict in a different direction, or to influence the conflict in a positive or negative ebb or flow, depending on our reaction, and or taking that breath, taking that time to slow down our own feelings, slow down our own
Right.
thoughts, so that we
Right.
can be an agent of positive change within that issue, within that conflict. And sometimes you taking that step to be the bigger person, that can literally change the entire trajectory of what's
Hmm.
happening within that conflict. So that being that agent of change and positively influencing the outcome, that's what I'm encouraging you guys to do, to make sure that you're equipped in being the bigger person to positively influence the outcome of the
That's right.
challenge, the issue, the conflict. It won't always work out in your favor, but I can definitely tell you that over the years, me taking me taking that extra step or that one more step, not that one more step towards throwing hands or some other foolishness, but taking one more step toward being that bigger person, that has influenced situations in a positive fashion and steered us in the right direction. And sometimes you serve as the reminder to someone else to make sure
That's
to
right.
take that positive path, as opposed to like if they pitch the tent and you bring the circus right on up in there, and then the lions they done jumped off and started attacking the ringleader and everything else, that can quickly happen. But you have the power and the autonomy to make sure that it's like, I see you pitch that tent there. Let me come help you take it down. And we're
Right.
not gonna take it down just tearing it up. We just gonna have a nice little talk while we work, put in some
Mhm.
work so that we can take this thing down, put it
That's right.
away for another time.
That's so good. And yeah, and that goes back to like where your focus goes, your energy flows. And so if you're focused on the conflict, you're going to bring conflict energy. If you're focused on the solution, you're going to bring solution energy. And so focusing on, is this a reaction or am I going to take a deep breath and have a response?
Hmm.
Right? Because reactions are good, but they're abrupt.
Hmm.
And so, does this require me being abrupt? If it does, I got a reaction for you. But if it requires me to just take a pause and have a response, and the difference is thinking. The difference between a reaction and a response is your thoughts, the amount of time that you put into your thought process to come up with a strategy to combat or comfort or collaborate or whatever it is that you're being faced with. But check your energy. We have a doormat. My daughter brought this to our place. It says, check your energy before you come in this house, right? That's how it should always be. You should always be operating. Let me check my energy. What's my pulse right now? Am I a little combative right now? And check yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you, Jess, I think you a little on 12 right now, and I think it doesn't require all that. Don't wait for somebody to check you. Like, be self-aware enough that you could say, let me just take 5 minutes. Let me go make myself some tea before I have this conversation. Let me go hit that gym real quick and get on this treadmill for about 15 minutes before I have this conversation, right? And so you can come up with strategies of ways that work for you when you're out of alignment. Because we all get out of alignment. And the question is not, are you going to get out of alignment? No. The question is, are you going to adjust quickly? That's really what it is, right? We have, I mean, if you've ever been to a chiropractor, you know that some people wait until their spine is just all and then you get to the chiropractor and they got to click, click, click everything. Don't wait till you can't walk before you get an get an adjustment. You got to like stay as soon as you feel off kilter just a little bit, then you get that adjustment so that you can stay in alignment for sure. And I always say this, it's when you're in alignment, that's when the assignment will show up. When you're waiting for your assignment and you're like, God, excuse me, God, I don't know what my next step is going to be. I don't know what I'm going to do. God, what am I? Yeah, maybe you're out of alignment and that's why you haven't been given the assignment. So make sure that you check yourself and get in that, get back on purpose and back on track quickly so that you can keep on, doing what you're doing.
That's right. That's good. That's real good. Well, we've been rocking for almost an hour here, and I'm not going to keep the viewers any more time for today, but I know that we would love to see you back in the future. Before we part ways here, just share with me if anything that you have coming up, anything that you would like the people to tune into, and then where are your socials so that everybody can find you.
I appreciate that. I'm in a quiet season right now. I'm working on, as Jessica knows this, I've been working on a book for quite a time, and I'm definitely inspired by you to get this book done because it's been a long time coming. So look for that. I'm in the studio working on new music, so you can also look for that. Social media, I'm on Instagram probably more than any other social, and that is Ashling dot. I'm sorry, Ashling dot Cole. on Instagram. But you can find me, Ashling, and just make sure that Ashling and not Ashley, like some people call me. And yeah, y'all can just support me. You can go to ashlingcole.com. I do coaching. If you ever want to set up a vocal coaching, I work with singers and speakers to help you find, not only find your voice, but how to keep it, right? To teach you ways that you can keep your vocal health. You don't have to be a singer, but you can be a speaker as well, or somebody who's just having, vocal fatigue, or you just want to learn how to express yourself in a more effective way. You can reach me at ashlingcole.com. And that's it. I mean, yeah, find me, reach out. You can slide into my DMs, just come correct. That's all I say. You can just make sure that you come correct.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing those socials and everything. We'll have those socials in the description for you guys below so that you can click to follow and keep up with Ashling and everything that she has coming up. Thank you so, so much for coming on with us today. I so appreciate you. You know, I always got a heart for you at the end of my calls.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I'm just elated. I'm just elated that you took the time out with me today, and I so appreciate it. Fun fact, you guys, I knew Ashling before I knew of her, and quite a few people in my community. It's funny to me now. For the longest, I'm just like, oh my goodness, she is just such a nice person. She is awesome. She is amazing. Just showing up as her genuine self. And then one day, a year, 2 years later, they're like, oh, yeah, just in case you didn't know who Ashling was, and they press play on a YouTube video. And I'm like, oh my God, you got nobody told me. And it was so funny to me
I
later
love
because
that.
when I was able to meet her in person for the first time, the same warmness, the same just warm, fuzzy hug that she is through the computer screen, that is how she embraced me in person. When I'm like, oh my gosh, Ashley, hey, you're taller than I thought you would be. This is awesome. And that same energy, that same aura that you guys feel through the screen, that warm hug, that's exactly what I got when we were face to face.
Wow.
And so when I tell you guys that I am more than elated to have her, and when I tell you, Ashling, that I'm more than elated to have you today, you are a person who is very near and dear to my heart as a coach, as
Same.
an inspiration, as an all around just awesome person that you're just so willing and always able to pour, even when before I even started turning my camera on. She was one of those people that poured into me on a regular basis. Poured into my relationship, into my marriage, that she just all the way around. Like
Wow.
you deep down in my heart right here, girl. So
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much. Thank you so much. And shout out to all the tallies out there. I'm 5'10". I know a lot of people don't even, you can't tell on virtual and computer screen and phones, whatever. People look the same height. 5'10". Shout out to all the tallies out there. Let's go.
yeah, I'm living vicariously through you, okay?
And the feeling's mutual, Jessica. I just appreciate you. You've worked so hard over these last few years. And I just am always tickled when, I love to meet people that haven't seen me on TV or don't know me. They're just like, no, because I really am just that girl that like, I just want to love on people. I just want to like help you to get to the next level and, encourage you and inspire you and, get you to love on yourself and the people around you and all that stuff. So I just appreciate you, and I'm so glad that we were able to have this conversation today.
So am I. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, we will catch you all next week on the next episode. We'll see you next Wednesday. Have a good one, guys. Peace.